28th of April, number of the day is 5. I'm choosing 5, Francis Heard, because that seems to be the average of the jet fuel stock availability if you look at Joburg and Cape Town. Either way, 5 is a worrying number.
Yeah, this is from the Airports Company of South Africa, ACSA, and it's actually trying to calm the farm, tell people, don't worry, there's sufficient stocks at airports. But you're right. So OR Tambo has 5 to 6 days worth of jet fuel. Cape Town has 4 to 5 days. It doesn't sound like a lot.
It doesn't sound like a lot.
Shaka is a bit better, up to more than 15 days. But now this comes after the Airlines Association of Southern Africa said, please, could governments in Southern Africa tell us? Could fuel suppliers tell us, and obviously the airports company, because the airports are depots for the fuel, tell us what's going on with jet fuel supplies, because there's a global shortage.
Yeah.
So this is a concern that we may be affected. And the reason is because if you don't have fuel at your airport, then airlines don't want to come, right? If you can't fill up and you know that your crew is going to be stuck in Johannesburg.
It also costs the airlines money to have an aircraft parked somewhere on the tarmac or the apron or whatever it's called.
And so this could affect tourism in South Africa, investment, and just a whole lot more. It's a big concern.
Part of the whole lot more, of course, is beyond the international carriers. I mean, that's obviously an issue for them. I'm just thinking about what it means for South African travelers, just locally, because we spoke about Joburg, Cape Town, the average days there. But you often book these tickets. I mean, you and I booked airline tickets before. You're not booking it the next day or for the next day. You're booking it for Mother's Day. You're booking it for July school holidays. Like, these are days and weeks away. And I don't know if I want to book my ticket now because they might run out of fuel. I'm sure they won't, but it's a concern for me.
Yes, and you're already trying to deal with prices, right? Because we've been talking about the surcharge, fly-so-fare surcharges, somewhere around 400 to about 1,500 rand.
Wow.
So you are paying more. So if you book your ticket, then at least your surcharge is fixed, because fly-so-fare, by the way, has put in a surcharge until August. But it did bring it down recently when jet fuel went down. So it's basically looking at it every week. So you can at least lock in the price of your ticket, but you can't lock in jet fuel supply. And I thought it would be interesting to see what's happening globally. So this is because refineries have been hit, right, in the Gulf, and then fuel can't move. So it's the same thing happening to oil is happening to jet fuel. But the refineries are really important because we import, I think, 70% of our jet fuel. NATREF refinery from Sasol does make some, and it does make some for OR Tambo. And ACSA says, by the way, NATREF is up and running, and it supplies most of the fuel to OR Tambo. So that's at least a relief. But I was looking around the world. Lufthansa has cancelled about 20,000 flights, and sometimes it's about jet fuel. Sometimes it's about just consolidating flights because costs are so high that they don't want half-empty planes. United Airlines looking at raising prices. There was a big problem at San Francisco Airport, and that affects flights around the US.
It does, and it's actually interesting you bring it up because I think there's been this misunderstanding, and I'm actually glad you clarified this, because there was a misunderstanding, at least from what I could see online, was that some airports weren't getting the fuel because they couldn't afford the fuel. But you just quite rightly said it's actually the physical fuel is not necessarily accessible anymore. It's not in the tanks. They can't get it.
Yes, so that's what the Airlines Association of Southern Africa is saying. Tell us how much supply you've got before the plane lands at OR Tambo. And because this affects their planning, right? You don't want to land and then not have fuel. Maybe you'll carry more fuel if there's a uncertainty, but then you can carry less passengers. So they're just saying this is about planning. And by the way, ACSA, the airports company, has confirmed this 4 to 6 days for OR Tambo and Cape Town. But the Airlines Association is saying, tell us what's going to happen after May. And tell us what happens if there is a shortage. How do you then ration the fuel? Which airlines will get the fuel?
Which routes?
Who will be prioritized? So this is very important for airline planning and for our planning as tourists, I'm just looking for more examples of what is happening because the jet fuel spike has been like 100%, right? $100 per barrel or less than to more than $200 per barrel. Last week, it was about $179 per barrel. Air Canada suspending services from Montreal and Toronto to New York between June and October. So they're actually thinking ahead. And they're saying this is because we just can't afford these uneconomical flights.
If I'm not mistaken, and tell me if I've got this wrong or right, but I'm fairly certain I saw a report, must have been early last week. I think it was FlySafair that actually cancelled, or at least has stopped their route between Lanseria and what used to be known as East London, now Kogompo. They've actually stopped that route, haven't they?
Exactly. And they said it's exactly because of that, because fuel costs are such a big portion of their costs. Generally, for airlines, about 30%. They can pass on some of those costs to consumers on a very full popular flight, but not on certain flights. And they're just saying it's unaffordable to go from Lanseria to
non-economical.
Kogompo. Yeah, so I think we're going to hear more and more of those sort of consolidations. And then the big thing is jet fuel availability. So let's wrap it up saying that according to the Airports Company of South Africa, OR Tambo is 5 to 6 days, Cape Town 4 to 5 days, King Shaka more than 15 days. But these airlines want answers about what's going to happen in future, despite NATREF at least being up and running and making some fuel for OR Tambo International Airport.